Hi everyone, today we're going to be practicing rounding. Just a quick reminder, make sure that as I am writing notes on the screen in the video, you are also writing the same things down on your notes packet. Make your paper look just like mine so that you have lots of good examples to look back at. So let's just review. The whole point of rounding is to be able to make complicated numbers easier to work with, and for when we're estimating and we don't need an exact amount. When we are rounding, the goal is to have numbers that end in zeros because those numbers are typically simpler and easier to work with. So the first thing we need to do is underline the place that we are going to be rounding to. So in this first example, it says round to the nearest 10,000ths place. So I'm going to start by saying my places until I find the 10,000ths place. Ones, tens, hundreds, thousands, 10,000ths, and I'm going to underline that 10,000ths place. Then I'm going to keep everything before the number that I underlined. So in this case, I have a 4 in front of the 3. I'm going to keep that in my answer. And then I have to decide what to do with that 3. I have two choices. I can bump it up or keep it the same. But I don't look at the number I underlined when I'm deciding what to do. I have to look next door. This number next door is the boss. That tells me if I should be keeping the 3 a 3 or bumping it up to the next number, because it tells me if this number is closer to 430,000 on the number line or 440,000 on the number line. So I have to decide based on this number next door. If this number next door is 4 or below, I'm going to let it go and leave my 3 alone. If the number next door is 5 or above, I'm going to give it a shove and bump it up to the next highest number. Well, 2 is 4 or below, let it go. So that tells me that I need to leave my 3 a 3. And then everything after the 3 is going to turn into a 0. So in this case, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 numbers after that. So I'm going to write 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros. So let's look at the next example. The next example says to round to the nearest hundreds place. So we're going to start by underlining the hundreds place. And then we're going to rewrite anything that comes before that. So I'm going to rewrite the 1 in my answer. Then I have to decide what I should do with this 4. So I'm going to look next door at the boss. The boss is a 7. That's 5 or above, give it a shove, which tells me I need to make my 4, I need to shove it up to the next highest number and make it a 5. And then everything after that becomes a 0. And what that really means here is that 1,478 is closer to 1,500 on a number line than it is to 1,400 on a number line. Next example, we have $48.10. And if it says round to the nearest dollar, that means round to the nearest whole number. Get rid of all the cents. So we're going to underline that 8 or the ones place. We're going to keep the 4 in our answer. And then we're going to decide what we should do with the 8 by looking next door at the boss. The boss is 4 below, let it go. So that tells me I'm going to leave my 8 and 8. And everything after it becomes a 0. Now, technically, because everything after it is also after a decimal, we could just leave it at $48 and not write anything else. But if you're ever not sure, you can write the decimal point 00 just to be sure. That will never be incorrect. And if you think about it, if we were to put it on a number line, $48.10 is a lot closer to $48 than it is to $49. Next one says round to the nearest tenths place. Notice that tenths is spelled with that THS at the end. And we learned that trick that anything THS has to be after the decimal point. And if we write it TH, that reminds us that the T is for the tenths place, the H is for the hundredths place. So that means the 6 is in my tenths place. I'm going to keep everything before it. So I'm going to keep the 312 and the decimal point. And then I'm going to look next door at the boss. In this case, the boss is a 7. That's 5 or above, give it a shove. So I'm going to bump my 6 up to a 7. and everything else becomes a 0. So let's look at how these problems will come up when you do your progress monitoring. The first example says Scott had $2,765 in his bank account. He withdrew $549 from his account. When you withdraw money, it means you're taking it away. So that means we're going to be subtracting. And they want to know what is the estimated balance to the nearest hundreds place. So we're going to be doing 2,765 minus 549. And when we do that, we're going to get 2,216. So then we're saying, okay, what's the nearest hundreds place? So we're going to underline the hundreds place. We're going to keep the 2 that comes before that in our answer. And then we're going to decide what to do with it. So we're going to look next door at the boss. The next number is a 1. That's 5 or 4 or below, let it go. So that means we're going to leave our 2 a 2. And then we're going to write 2 zeros after that. You should get 2,200. The next one says estimate the sum to the nearest tens place. And if you forget what sum is, it really tells you right here. We're simply adding these numbers up, and then we're going to round to the nearest tens place. In this case, when we add our numbers up, we end up with 714 as our answer. And then we need to look for the tens place. The 1 is in the tens place. I'm going to keep the 7 in my answer, but then I have to decide what to do with the 1. So I'm going to look next door. The next number is 4 or below, let it go. So I'm going to leave my 1 a 1 and then change the 4 to a 0. So 710 would be my final answer. In the next example, it says Catalina spent $30.55 on groceries. She spent $23.35 on music. Estimate to the nearest dollar the total amount she spent. Well, if we need to know the total, that means we're going to be adding up our numbers. So first we're going to add $30.55 plus $23.35. When we do that, we're going to get $53.90. Then we need to underline our whole dollars. That's the 3 or the 1's place, same thing. We're going to keep the 5 a 5. And we're going to look next door. The next number over is a 9. That's 5 or above, give it a shove. So I'm going to bump my 3 up to a 4. And then I could leave it just like that, $54. Or if I wasn't sure and I wanted to be safe, I could also write the decimal 00 to finish my answer. You could also, if it's easier for you, decide, is this closer to $30 or $31? And if we look at the cents, that tells us give it a shove. It's closer to $31. And this, if we look at the cents, is closer to 23 than it is to 24. So we could round first and then add 23 plus 31. Either way, you'll get the correct answer. In the last example, it says the cost of a single DVD is $5.90. Estimate to the nearest whole number the cost of 8 DVDs. We could add $5.90 up 8 times, but it's probably easier to multiply. So in this case, we're going to do $5.90 times 8. When we do, we're going to get $47.20. And they want to know the nearest whole number. So I'm going to underline my 7 or my whole numbers. The 4 is going to stay. And then I'm going to look next door to decide what to do with the 7. That 2 is a 4 or below, let it go. So I'm going to leave my 7 a 7. I could stop there, but because of the decimal, or I could do decimal 0.00, whichever one makes more sense to you is fine. You are going to go ahead and do the You Try It problems. Make sure that you use the directions at the top of each page to help you, but you can also look back and re-watch these examples in the video if you get stuck. And then when you're finished with the You Try It problems, if you feel like you still need more practice, there are links at the end for extra practice. Happy practicing!